Up with
LLopez.
I don't know what this light's on. I guess it's just dark. Anyway, so Basic to Advanced Cannabis Growers Group is a Facebook group. It's a very good group if you want to learn how to grow cannabis. And Facebook is a great place actually to hook up with people like, and you said it's LLopez?
Yep.
Yeah. This brother here has actually a lot of insight on cannabis. It really understands not only cannabis, but how to grow it in the different ways. Now, you were telling me earlier that you're into deep water culture. Yep. That's kind of an interesting way of growing. It's actually an efficient way of growing. Yes. You can do a lot in a small space, and you can really address the plant's needs without having to get crazy with, you know, trying to with these 40-gallon pots and stuff. So
one great thing is I don't have to buy medium. I'm just replacing water.
There you go.
And the plant never stops eating, so it's a constant.
And I think one nice thing with that too is you really get to look at the root development, and you really get a feel for kind of like the lower part of the plant that, you know, people don't consider that part of the plant.
Yes,
right. And it's now coming out that thing is the roots are full of amazing nutrients, and the phytoremediation, it will suck up little plastic particles, are saying now, and they get caught in the roots. They don't make it to the rest of the plant. And there's these things called anyway, they call it. There's a horrible little chemical residue that's left over and everything, but the cannabis actually is able to filter that out.
Yes.
So as a root guy, what's your favorite way to deal with roots? How do you like to start rooting?
I go with an old favorite, Clonex. Clonex is my go-to.
Sure,
there's other companies on the market that use the same exact acid of them, and they have just as good results. But they've been around the longest. I have a good relationship with using their product. I trust it a little more.
Do you use a clone box?
I use an oxycloner.
Oh, yeah. What's an oxycloner?
It's basically kind of like a deep water culture. But it's a unit that has 18 different units. They have little collars to hold your cuts. They hang the stem a little lower beneath the unit, and then you're filling up that unit with water with a bubbler. And it's basically almost the same thing as deep water culture. It's just this one is to establish a root system. So once you have that root system, you could take that rooted clone and transition it better to that deep water culture setting, because it's already used to all the same environmental factors. So they usually clone very quickly if you do a lot of things right. Not saying that every strain is going to do great and be right on schedule, because some are a little finicky. But if you do a lot right, you change your water, you add things like clear res to the water that's going to kill off any bad bacteria. It's a certain acid where it's just attacking the bad bacteria, so you don't get root rot.
Oh, wow.
So you have to have something like that, or hydro flow drip, which is made of the same, another one with the same acid. So it's basically, you want to keep the bad bacteria from colonizing the res. So, and that could happen very quickly, 3 to 5 days. So if you have that acid in the water, like clear res, and you're doing your bucket changes every 7 days, you won't have a root rot problem, because you're adding something to the water just to prevent it altogether. Now, if you weren't running that, you could run something like a water chiller, a 1 horsepower water chiller. So basically that's going to keep the water at 68 degrees or lower. If you program it lower, 68 degrees tends to be the agreed range you want to be, 67, 68. Because once you go over like 71, 72, that's the breeding ground for that bad bacteria to start to multiply.
Because our roots, I think, actually like human room temperature.
Oh, close to it.
Like
they don't like it too hot. And they don't like to be overwatered. Like, even in deep water culture, your plant could, if your pump went off, your plant would show like symptoms of overwatering, because it doesn't have the oxygen in the water anymore. And even though what's happening is really it's suffocating, and they can't uptake even the water, even though the roots are wet. So there's a lot of basics to go with deep water culture that you just have to be willing to do the investment. Buy some of the right products. A water chiller alone could be anywhere from $300 to $500. So if I was in a grocery store as a salesman, selling you the acid for $10, or you're adding 25 milliliters, you know, into a 4-gallon bucket, would be an easier sale than, here, I have this water chiller for $499. Because that's more for like
larger scale,
bigger scale hydro grow. But if you're just running small buckets in a small setting, these things will help you prevent root rot. You know, and there's also other products on the market that are beneficial bacteria, not an acid. If you didn't want to go the acid way, where the beneficial bacteria will just fight with the other bacteria to colonize the res. It'll be like a little war in there, and if you keep adding the beneficial bacteria, the bad bacteria can't grow, so it'll be beneficial. But I do like the acid better. It's like, why risk it?
Yeah.
You know, if I can wipe them out and keep them wiped out, and as long as I change my water and it don't get too hot, because water temperature plays a factor in the ions having a positive and negative effect on the pH range. So if your water's getting too hot and you're having pH swings, that's the reason why. That's why a lot of growers will, when they're mixing nutrients, they'll sit that water out for a good 20 minutes to let it kind of get to room temperature so they have a more stable pH reading. Because if you do it right away and the water temperature's still changing, in 20 minutes it might not still be that same pH range. So you have to just kind of wait it out a little bit, be patient, then make sure things are stable, and if they're not, make those slight adjustments with your pH up and down. Make sure your parts per million are in a happy range that the plant likes, and everything will go good. All your plant health is based around your pH range. And even if you're in organics, there's guys who say, hey, I don't ever pH my water.
The pH is huge for nutrient absorption.
Right.
You know, just even more than that,
but even in an organic setting, the range is still the same, just when they're adding things to the soil like dolomite lime, they're adding worm castings, they're things that help the medium fix itself over time, because it doesn't uptake food right away. As you feed with organics, you're feeding the medium, not the plant. When I feed with salt or synthetic nutrients, I'm actually feeding the root system, and it's uptaking that food directly. So it's super important for that pH range to be right then for synthetics. But for organics, doesn't necessarily have to be a pH water, because you have a lot of things going on that are beneficial in the rhizosphere, the mediums, that are just going to help correct it over time and then make that food available to the plant. So there's just, when it comes to growing, there's just different ways to do it. Soil's different than hydro, and your regular soil grow with synthetic nutrients is different than your organic setting with your organic amendments. You know, so it really just comes down to what you like. We all have preferences, and I think that everybody can grow good cannabis in any one of those methods, and it just really comes down to what you like. For me, I like deep water culture. I feel like the plant develops terpenes that I couldn't get in soil. That's my preference. A lot of people that grow in deep water culture that also grow the same plant and also soil have noticed that well, where they felt like the plant was further developed and they never experienced a particular aroma or a taste in that bug before it until they got to the deep water culture or hydro setting, because the plant never gets lockout unless it's because it'd be for the grower. It's on me to keep the pH range in the correct zone. So it's a grower error if my pH range is not right. With soil, well, it's not so easy. So you got to keep flushing every couple of weeks to kind of keep the salt buildup to a minimum. And even in an organic setting, they're always giving synthetic growers griping at them for flushing, and I get it. But they do the same version of something like that with enzymes and microbes. You know, they break down bone meal and organic matter and dead root matter, and it makes the food more available to the plant. It's trying to stop the lockout and make the food more available. So there's different ways to do different things. The flushing thing is always going to be a debatable thing, but I'd rather smoke cannabis that was flushed correctly than to have a plant where it never stopped processing food, and now you're drying and then you get all that chlorophyll smell. And you're wondering why. It's because your plant, when you should have been backing off the nutrients and backing off of the intensity of the light, because to the plant, it's no longer August, it's September at the end of your harvest, and it's always that summertime to the beginning of fall. So if you're replicating that, you know, week 7, you should be dimming your light down. If you're lowering your temperatures, you're dropping your humidity, you know, and if you do a bunch of these things right, you'll definitely increase the cannabis quality, the overall end product, the bag appeal, the terpenes, the aroma when you open the jar, and it's like, whoa, when you walk into a room. So a lot, they're not necessarily tricks, they're just education in the right way, just having an understanding of what's going on. And it's not something that only one guy can do. Everybody can do it. They just need to grab or be, you know, informed on, you know, a couple of things that Mother Nature does, and what I could do in my grow. I never have a cloudy day, a rainy day in my grow tent, so I'm gonna have a higher quality coming out of my grow tent than my outdoor. It's just perfect environment all the time. It's the highest quality cannabis you can get. You know, to produce versus an outdoor grow, which is fine because it's still good cannabis. But if we're talking about picture quality and things like that, you know, these things play a factor.
Taste is the biggest thing.
And a lot of guys love the soil taste. They'll never leave it, and I get that. But when a lot of the times they'll smoke my bud, and they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, this is really good." That was hydro, was the stuff that you were against. You know, the stuff that supposedly didn't have as much flavor, but it does. And so I think if a lot of people just take the time just to invest in themselves, take a moment. If you like this hobby and you like rubbing elbows with good people, I run a group called Basic to Advanced Cannabis Growers on Facebook. You can find us through the groups tab, or you could just message me, LLopez, and I'll send you a link, no problem at all. And all we do is just help people be successful. Give them the explanation that they're not getting from other sources, where we'll take a moment to tell you not just what's wrong, but how did that happen? What can we do to prevent that? So you have a better understanding so you don't keep repeating the same mistakes. And we've had a lot of people go from never having a green thumb ever, never grew anything in their life, to in their first and second harvest because they listened to some good, you know, advice, you know, keep it in this humidity range, this temp range at this stage of the plant's life, just asking good questions along with the grow. They made the right adjustments and they got really good results right away. And the good thing is when you want help and you don't know, ask for help. It's okay to not know. And I'm one of those people where I don't like bullying. So in my group, in that social media platform, we try not to deal with any of that type of stuff where it's not about who's better than the other. I want to help everybody just get their understanding of growing. And when they can grow their own meds and they're saving money and they don't have to go to the dispensary anymore and overpaying for marijuana, it helps their quality of life because now they could take some of that money now because they're growing, they're saving all this money by not spending on weed, and they could take that and treat themselves, and their quality of life definitely improves over time. So there's lots of benefits of growing cannabis.
Definitely.
And one of them is just the rewarding feeling of starting something from seed, and it depended on you its whole existence, and here you are with some primo top shelf buds. And everybody's opinion of that is different, but when you put your heart and soul in something, you know it's coming out good, and people that are smoking it, you could tell that they like something. And it's a good feeling when you feel like, you know, all that hard work finally paid off. So,
definitely.
Yeah. So if anybody that's into growing, I'm into it too, and I'm very active in my platform. So they will definitely get help from me because I don't hide from any message. I'll get on it. I will video chat. I will call. I will do what it takes to try to help them be successful. That was the main mission statement.
There you go.
You know, so you might as well follow that through and through, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm a member. I know you're very active. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're trying to wrap up, but letting me know what's going on, and keep up the good work. You do a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, brother.